Welcome to Heart and Soul, where creators take center stage. Tonight's guests are the hosts of Cranial Emissions, Ben Charles, Joey T, and Miguel Hito. Thank you guys for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Trina. It's an honor to be here, in your setting here, a beautiful home, so we're glad to be here.
Absolutely. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start with you. I'd like to ask you first, Ben. So how did Cranial Emissions get started?
Cranial Emissions, it was a concept originated from my friend Jesus Julio, who was one of the original hosts of the show back in the day. Him and I, we were hanging out at my house one day. We were talking about the fact that, hey, we go to the bar, have some drinks on a Friday night, and we opine about things that are funny, things that are more cerebral, sports, whatever. And we thought to ourselves, instead of hanging out at the bar, spending money there, and talking about what we talk about, why don't we do it as a radio show concept? And originally it was a hobby and kept you out of the bar, save you some money, and had some fun.
Right.
It evolved much further from there.
Absolutely. Joey, when did you join the show?
I actually was a guest host from the very first show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was playing in a band at the time, and we were doing it on Friday nights. And most of the time you play out on Friday nights.
Yeah.
So I couldn't be guarantee my position there. But I think I made them all, didn't I?
Well,
I think I rushed home from a couple of sets just to get there. Yeah.
You said that you couldn't guarantee it, and yet he was a guest host, but it was kind of a running joke because there was never a moment where he wasn't the host.
The guest host never left.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a good guest host knows when to leave. I was like a bad penny. I kept turning
Thank
up.
you very much.
Yes.
So, Miguel, how did you join Cranial Emissions?
We were up at, can I say the bar?
Yes,
Just
you
making
can.
sure.
Yeah.
We were up at O'Toole's one night, and we're all just hanging out, and they were talking about doing. You were talking about doing some movie stuff. You had some script to do some movie stuff, and I do a bunch of characters. Like I sit for about 5 minutes with somebody. I can usually emulate them, and my last name is Parrot, so I can pretty much do that.
Cool.
And I've been doing it ever since I was a kid, make a lot of noise and making crazy noises, and I gave them a few tidbits, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you got to call the show." So I called the very first live show you guys did as.
Yeah.
No, you didn't call. You were actually in studio for that one.
Was I?
Yeah, you were
so.
in studio, and he was the first. He did the
Was
first
I?
live character work in studio.
I don't think so.
No, you were.
I thought I called.
I'll play back the audio for you.
Okay. Something happened in the realm of me being on the show, that first live show.
Yeah.
It's a couple
And,
years ago.
I did my character Felix, who was the show's benefactor, and that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And usually it was really long-winded. Now we kind of compress it into 4 to 5 minutes of funny, and then we do it now.
So, were you there in the beginning?
Well,
when did you
no.
come
I kind of came in on that whim, and they're like, "Hey, you can do some stuff. Let's see what you got." And I let them hear it, and I kind of joined in little pieces from there.
I mean, we were trying to expand the range of what we were doing. Once we started working on it, we started.
Yeah, we were mostly sports from the beginning.
Yeah, but
I think that's all we pretty much
started
talked.
trying to add some other stuff in there. And so I guess the first time Mike was on the show, or as we call him, Miggy, it was about 3 months after we first started.
Oh.
But we've been doing this for 3.5 years. So he originally started out doing the character work for us, and he didn't become a host of the program until a full-time host anyway until December of 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but he'd always been working with us.
So you always provide the characters.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So what does it take to make the show? I mean, what goes into making Cranial Emissions, Ben?
I think it's an analogous. One of my favorite analogies is there was a documentary with South Park. Had the 5 days of South Park.
6 days to
Or
air.
is it 6 days? Yeah. And on Cranial, it's 4 days. We start every Tuesday. We get together. We outline the show. We start doing the voiceover work for all the drops that we do, all the little spots, the little bits.
There's
that we
quite
do.
a number of those.
Usually every week we'll try to put something in. We make our own commercials and everything. We'll do the VO work then as well after the outline, and then we have 4 days to engineer everything, tighten it all up, mix it. But the guest work in terms of doing the interviews and that scheduling really starts several weeks before. So it's 4 days to fully prepare for a broadcast, but there's not a single day even though it's one, a show that's once a week.
Yeah.
There's not a single day
7
that,
days a week.
yeah,
in our
we're,
heads,
we're always thinking about it, working on it, talking about it,
listening
I mean,
to it.
Miggy and I will talk almost every single day in the morning about the show,
Wow.
right? Usually,
Like on the phone?
and he's
Text.
so like clockwork. Typically, if it's between 9:30 and 10
the
on a
morning?
weekday, Miggy's in the coma.
I know he's up, and I know he's just getting to work and or just at his house drinking coffee, so I can hit him up. And he tries not to answer sometimes, but I know he's just like, oh man. And then he answers the phone, and we talk for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We
How about you, Joey?
yeah.
I come over on Tuesdays. I usually bring up my ideas that I think about pretty much the same all week. I talk to you quite a bit about the
Yeah.
show. About ideas usually, what we're going to do for the new commercial. Do we got a new little stupid skit we're going to do? Do we got any cool guests coming on? Are we going to do something cool when they come on?
Yeah.
'Cause we like when we get guests on, we like to throw them. We had some guys from a band we called Deadlift on, and we gave them a rock and roll lyric challenge.
Lyric challenge.
Yeah,
And
just,
Sancho did
so-
it. And
I saw that.
That was great. wasn't it?
Sancho, every song that was on there, Sancho had the actual song name in it. So.
I remember. I saw that one. I was like,
Yeah.
what did he do?
Sancho's he doesn't know a lot in the world, but he's a pretty funny dude. So
I mean, it's hard because the thing is that we always want to replicate the consistency of the comedy that we do, and we have to be very careful about not forcing it. And so from week to week, we're always trying to innovate, but not at the expense of mediocrity. You know what I mean?
Well, we don't
there's
wanna- we
times
don't
where
wanna
we talk
overuse
about
it.
stuff. And we're like, no, we're
It's
forcing
not
it.
formulaic.
Yeah, we're forcing that. We can't do that. But every week there's that ongoing pressure in terms of what are we going to do that's different this week?
Right.
You know, how are we going to spice it up? And the thing, as you know, when you do a show, especially the longer the time is that you add to it, and we're a 2-hour program,
Yeah.
pacing is huge.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand when it's time to be serious, when it's time to be funny, and you don't want to overdo any of it.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this: if you had to summarize the show, how would you define it? Like if you were having coffee and you heard these guys, they were like, "Oh, did you hear this?" You know, and you were like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
so
you
you
should."
want to boil it down to an elevator pitch, basically.
Yeah.
So who of us do you want to give the elevator pitch? Because we'll all probably have a different one.
Actually, I want to hear all of you because it is actually different.
All right, start it up. See what you got.
I mean, if I had to boil it down, it's if you're at the bar, you're hanging out with your buddies, you're having a couple of drinks. What do you talk about?
Right.
Some of us obviously have different proclivities in terms of what we want to talk about, but the three of us, we didn't start out as hosts that became friends. We started out as really tight friends that became hosts, and so for us, it was, we're all nerdy in our own ways. We're all, bombastic and aggressive in our own ways or whatever. But we love our sports. We love our
Yeah.
hockey. We
Yeah.
love our
Video games,
comedy, our
comics,
silliness.
movies.
But I mean, I remember one time we were sitting at a pub that we used to hang out with before we did the show, and we spent 3 hours talking about string theory, for crying out loud. And people were
Which, by
walking-
the way, I can throw down on some string
Oh, I
theory,
love
and
it.
I've got my own
And
opinion.
people walk up to
Just
you,
saying.
and as soon as they observe what you're talking about, their mind's blown. They're like, "Okay, I'm just gonna walk away."
I
from
thought you guys were
It's like a
talking about.
landmine. But that's, I mean, to sum it up, and to me, that's what the essence of the
Strange
show
phrase.
is, and that's why we say it's cranial emissions, because it's thoughts that come from your head. And one of the taglines is question everything but consider anything. So every week it could be a different thing. I mean, we're going to talk about some sports, we're going to talk about some funny stuff, but
And beer. We're always going
and
to talk
beer,
about
we're
beer.
always going to talk about beer. But it's the elevator pitch, I guess, is it's you hanging out with your friends and the stuff that you talk about when you're having fun.
All right, and what about you, Joey?
He pretty much took what I was going to say. I mean, that's basically what the whole concept was at the beginning. We would sit around the bar and we're like, I work out of my truck. I do like tech work, so I listen to talk radio all the time.
Great band.
Yeah, and I just started to think, these guys aren't much. I think we can do this. You know what I mean? And it's like at first we were all like, in front of the mic, like nobody wanted to say anything. We're all like, oh, back to you.
Except me.
Yeah, well, you never had a problem with it.
that.
I know,
I
but
cannot.
yeah, we started off actually doing it just over a phone. We were like all standing around a phone,
cell phone,
yelling at each other.
speakerphone, yeah.
It was ridiculous. We tried a couple things
Oh my gosh.
till our engineering got up to par. But yeah, that's just all it was supposed to be from the get go. Was let's try to take our conversations, make them somewhat
Coherent.
Coherent. Yeah, yeah. That's a good
Coherent
word.
and relevant.
Relevant.
Relevant
and,
is big.
Yeah, yeah. And then that's pretty much it. It was just trying to, have a good time, trying to make people laugh.
And how about you, Miggy? How do you?
When I
do you
initially
pitch it?
came on the show, my thing is I'll get into doing things and I'll create these really fruity little scenarios and little movies in my head, and that's kind of almost what I've been bringing to the show is I'll have all these each character has their own thing, and I loved the radio theater back in the day, like the 1920s,
Oh, yeah.
30s. I love the radio theater. I love the Orson Welles. I love people listening to it, going, "What the heck is gonna happen next?" And for the first part of since December, we've been creating these crazy little stories, and it's almost a little bit too much because we don't have the listenership quite yet to really build on a lot of these stories, and it's almost like I just love that old school stuff. So I bring the characters and I love making people laugh, and if it makes you laugh, even if it's really stupid, it makes me happy. So, if I see somebody laughing out there, I'll just I'll ramp it up. I'll turn it up just one little notch to see how far I can go. I love turning it up. I love turning little things up. I love poking Ben just enough to where right before he gets pissed off, and then he looks at me and just smirks and he's like, "Oh, you." So I love the talking. I just love the whole. We do a radio theater commentary of life. I mean, we really.
That's a beautiful description.
Yeah, and
and Miggy touches on he's talking about. That's the other quotient of the show, is the theater aspect to it, and like what you're talking about essentially is
the characters.
Canon. It's the canon of the show. It's the backstory to it. But we stumbled onto that over time. That was not something that was
never on the onset.
It was not initially planned, but once we started deciding to spice up the show and add characters to it and add some random comedy
backstories,
to it began to take on a life of its own.
So what obstacles have you guys had to overcome becoming live radio show hosts?
Well, besides the time that I had to run the 110 meter hurdle before I did the show.
Oh, that was bad.
Horrible joke there.
Obstacles.
But no, the obstacles are the relationships that we have. The obstacles are whether it's familial, whether it's a girlfriend, whether it's a wife, whether it's a friend. The feelings of neglect that they try to convey to you because you can't be there. The show goes on always. That's the mantra of the Cranial Emissions show. The show always goes on. So, and it's every Friday. If you are a family member and you schedule a reunion
On Friday.
I can't be there.
Right.
Why would you schedule it on Friday anyway?
Well,
That's ridiculous.
if it's, I'm not going to be able to take my girlfriend out or my ex-wife out. No, there's an ex. To dinner because on a Friday because of the radio show. But the thing is, if you believe in the project, if you believe in the work,
If you're committed.
then you're not going to kowtow to whatever those demands are, and you hope that the people that care about you will acquiesce to what you have to do in an understanding that this is building to a brighter future.
Right. And how about you, Joey? Any obstacles?
Not a ton. I think mostly just time and getting everything organized. I like to do a lot of stuff, so you gotta kind of organize your week, and I like to travel, so this kind of knocks out a little bit of travel. Got to set that apart, and then I have to get off the couch, and that's tough sometimes.
That's so tough.
Yeah, it really is.
See, Joe is ingenious in his hermetic nature because he's like the lone wolf McQuaid of relationships. Where
Chuck Norris?
I thought you said I thought you were talking about girl and boy at the same time.
He's a skewed relationships in favor of productivity, so he doesn't face that same kind of obstacle.
He doesn't.
And I say that with all jealousy in certain aspects.
He doesn't want to become some woman's hobby, is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, cut. Go to you, Mike.
All right.
Mike, what are your
Moving on.
obstacles?
Well, have you had to overcome any
Obstacles is definitely the relationship thing. I mean, my girlfriend is really, really, really accommodating to my ventures. She's really cool. I don't know how she puts up with me, to tell you the honest truth. Like, I literally live a schizophrenic life when it comes to just, you never know what I'm going to do next. So it's like when I was asked to do the show back, 3 weeks before December 16, was 3 weeks prior, I was very sketchy about it. But then, she held there. I mean, we did the show almost 5 days a week.
Well, what he's talking about though, because he's kind of vague with it, but we were on hiatus for a bit, and the
about 8
brewery,
months.
the brewery came to us, ESP Brewing, where we broadcast from, came to us and said, look, we want you to broadcast from our grand opening, which starts December, first week of December.
16. No,
And
December
so
16.
we got 3 weeks to get our stuff together and broadcast from it. So all of a sudden he had to go to his girlfriend and say, look, we've got extra, all the commercials we make are parody. Everything we make, everything you hear sound-wise, we make ourselves. We had 3 weeks to tighten up.
We had to make we made almost 10 different commercials.
Oh wow.
Station IDs,
Intro,
intros,
outro.
develop characters, tried to figure out what we were gonna do with the show.
Uh-huh.
It was tough. It was a very strenuous 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was.
And it took a lot. I've gotten a lot of trouble for
And
it.
you know what,
'cause
his
that's all you
girlfriend-
think about.
His girlfriend and my girlfriend, to their credit, they acquiesced, they dealt with it, but
And my couch dealt with it. So
were they thrilled with it? They probably weren't thrilled
That
with
poor
it.
couch, missing you.
Yeah.
it does.
But she knows. She knows I'm in it for the long haul. So it's not like I'm gonna. She knows I love to do it. She knows I'm a ham, and I love to be in front of the crowd, and I love to make people happy. So it made it easier for her
Yeah.
to know that I'm doing something that I love to do.
And I'm gonna start with Ben. What have you encountered as being a live radio show host? What's a common misconception you've encountered?
Well, I think the biggest misconception is that it's a hobby.
Mhm.
You talk to people and you say, "Oh, I do a radio show," and Miggy and I talked about this with you the other day. They'll say, "Oh, you do a radio show," and at first you tell them, they get really excited about it. Their eyes light up, especially if you're in a single world, you're talking to girls. They'll be, "Oh, you do a radio show," and all of a sudden there's this perceived value, and based on celebrity or status or whatever. And you say, "Yeah, what channel are you on?" And they're waiting for you to designate some kind of terrestrial station, typically, because that's what they're familiar
They want some
with.
numbers with a point in them.
88.5.
They don't
Yeah.
get the different media conveyances that are out there. So as soon as you say, "Well, I do it from the internet," immediately there's this. It's the body language. Oh. And then they act like it's just some hobby because you're not making money. And that is offensive, because you look at it, it's like, look, this is my blood, sweat, and tears. Like, we
Yeah.
work hard
Yeah.
on this, like we've talked about. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into this. So, it's a diminishment of what you're doing.
Right.
The first
Okay.
thing when you hear that, you want to go, you know what? Fuck you. Like, we work hard at this, man.
And Joey, have you had any misconceptions thrown at you for being a live radio show host?
I think that's pretty much nails it. Most people just are like, "Oh, okay, you're playing around on the internet." Huh?
Right.
Yeah,
Playing
like,
around, yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard
you
that a
just
couple
Oh my
Totally
times.
gosh,
playing
have
around
you
on it.
really?
Yeah,
That's
I did.
incredible.
And then I think most people don't even give it a shot then. Because they're just like, "Well, I can't be funny."
Most of
I
our
cannot believe
If you're
that.
not discovered by now, then
Some of our friends won't even give it a shot.
I know.
Like, I gotta throw them under the bus. There's friends of
Yeah.
ours that won't even listen. Like,
What?
just because they're lazy.
Oh my god.
Everybody's phone's got YouTube now, and we can
I know.
watch our effing show
I
on
think
YouTube.
one of my favorite things to do is one of your friends comes up to you and they're like, "Oh, you guys have a great show." And I'm like, "Yeah, what's your favorite part?" I can't tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do that too. Oh yeah.
Bring
What
it.
was it about it that you liked?
Yeah.
Oh, the
exactly.
talking.
Let me get a
The
pen and a
talking.
piece of paper.
The talking.
Let me take notes.
Miggy, have you had any people roll up on you with some
My
misconceptions?
dad is always I gotta throw my dad on the bus. Dad, I love you. but he's always like, when you gonna make money doing this? Is
Oh,
it gonna
wow.
be something you're ever gonna make money at? Like, is it, he's just like, I tell him that I do movies here and there. I mean, I've done stuff with you
Yeah.
before. You've asked me to do movies, and it's always about the money, and I'm not like all about the money guy.
Yeah, like it's a waste of time. Like standing out
they're
there
like, you're just
fishing isn't a
spinning
waste
your
of time.
wheels.
Well,
You're spinning your wheels, and not to
people
say
play golf all the
and
time.
my dad doesn't really. He's not a jerk about it. He's not in any way, shape, or
Yeah,
form a
yeah.
jerk about it. But he's
Concerned.
but he.
Yeah, but he.
Yeah, but he. it's tough because he lives in Vermont and I live here, so it's not like he knows really all of what I got going on.
Yeah.
You know, we really bust our ass and we really work
Yeah.
hard on the show.
But people
So
have
that's-
this notion that the financial gain legitimizes the effort.
Yeah, when you get, as soon as you get that first dollar, oh, you're making money now, so it must be legit. Like,
But what people don't understand, and you get it because you're you're doing what you're doing. Anybody in the entertainment business understands it's fake it until you make it, and
it's not even just entertainment.
You have
it's
to be
everywhere.
able to prove that you can do it before someone's going to
That is exactly
look
right.
at you as an asset and determine that there's some kind of financial gain that you should get from it, or that they might gain off of you through an affiliation.
Right.
So you have to demonstrate that there's value.
Right.
But you
No,
mean,
absolutely.
look at people with that volunteer with special needs kids. Are they just spinning their wheels? No, they're not. And I know it's a night and day situation because those are people with real needs, and we're doing something that we really love. So it's like
it's
if we're
not
not making
that-
money right now, it's just like we're working for that. We're working to make a living in this.
Right.
We want to do this
But
for
it's
a
not
living.
that strange of an analogy because
I know it's not,
You
I
in
mean-
essence are the special needs kid of our radio show.
Well, let me ask you this then.
Damn.
So what is an accurate perception? You
I'm
know,
just kidding, buddy.
so
I know.
we get the misconception, but has there been any accurate perceptions of being a live radio show host?
I think what's happened through the process is one of the things that happened to us recently, and we were cynical about it, admittedly, but we won a bunch of awards recently through the Internet Broadcasting Organization. We won Best Show, Internet Radio Show in Tampa. We won Best Host. We won Best Co-Host. As cynical as we were about why we may or may not have won those, it was interesting because after that we had so many people that came up to us, and immediately there was an acceptance
Yeah.
of that, and it caused people to come up and recognize things that I guess they had thought about the whole time and just didn't express. But when someone walks up and says, I would tell people about the awards, and I would downplay it. I would say, because it's just the modesty in us all. Unless you're just a total narcissist, and so I would say, yeah, we won. No big deal. I don't know how we won. Whatever. I downplay it. And I had so many different people say, what do you mean you don't know why you won? You won because you deserved it. You guys have a good show. You're a great host, this and that. And that was a real crystallizing moment for me personally. I don't know how it was for them, but it really validated the effort. And so when people, especially people like yourself, we've talked about this in the past.
yeah.
I mean,
We've been at the
when
awards
people
ceremony.
that are in the industry recognize, especially the ones that are on the front lines, that are doing this for free, that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into it. When they come up to you and say, "What you're doing is it is valued,"
Right.
it makes you feel good.
It does. How about you, Joey?
I think an accurate depiction of internet radio would be that it's great for people who don't have the education in radio or the experience in radio, and they can now go online and start their own radio show. Whereas in years, before the internet, you had to intern at a radio show
Yeah.
before you even got a gig doing anything, and it's definitely
If you got a gig,
but you had to start there almost.
Yeah.
Right.
Now here you can actually go on the internet, start your own show, and if people like it, they're going to listen to it. And then if so many people listen to it, somebody's going to have to take notice of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I think you get to say things that we don't have to worry about sponsors right now.
we can be the.
So we're not the most we're not the most politically or whatever guys. We don't get too crazy about any of that stuff. But if we wanted to, we could.
It's true.
We don't have to really worry about sponsors.
No,
so that's
it's
nice.
absolutely the case. And what about you, Maggie? Like, what's an accurate perception of being a live radio show host?
When my everything stems back to the laughter. Like when I see people, when I'm doing the show live and doing one of my characters and lashing out at something that one of Joey's characters did, and I see that person that's watching us do our show, and they're busting their ass laughing or shocked because I just screamed and yelled at him, and then and then I say something like I'm, from this, and then it's like when Sancho snatched at Nelson for, it's a murder capital of the world, and everybody starts laughing, and I yell at them, I stop laughing, to see that the interaction, because we're in front of a live audience,
Right.
which makes it even better. Not everybody gets that. Most people are in a studio. We get to be out in front of people live, showing them what we do. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the video so much, because it unmasks the fun, the characters that we do. But it almost makes us be better. It makes us figure things out more.
Right.
It makes us try to mask them in a way. When I do Sancho, sometimes I'll hide behind Ben in front of the camera. But now the guys started putting the camera right up on our face. I'm like, dude, you're messing with my shtick here. So, I love the whole theater. Radio is a theater for us to perform on, and I think that's a very accurate portrayal of what we do.
Right.
Day in, day out.
And so when people recognize it, it's refreshing to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when I won, I'm a pretty humble dude, and when we won the Talkie Awards, I was like, yeah, I won Best Host. They're like, whoa, no way, that's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool.
So, just to be sure, you guys broadcast every Friday night
Right.
at ESB Brewing in Tampa. And where's that located?
We'll all say it together. I'll say the first part.
Do
You
it.
always chime in. Broadcasting live from ESB Brewing, located at 333 North Falkenberg Road, Suite D,
Sweet D.
407.
15 different kinds of beers on
Tampa,
tap.
Florida. 15 different beers to choose from. Go and see our boy, the TJ, the illustrious
Do a
TJ.
favor to yourself. How do you say that? You
Do
owe
yourself
it
a
to
favor.
yourself.
Yes. The Dark Lord of something poured.
Yes, that was actually my favorite
Yes.
thing you guys say. So you guys are there at, 7 o'clock?
From 7 to 9 every Friday.
We're
All right,
there early.
guys, check these guys out. 7 to 9 Fridays at ESB Brewing. I want to thank you guys for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Thank you, Tran.
This is fun.
It's you're one of our biggest supporters, and I can't thank you enough. Not only for the opportunity to be on here, but also for your friendship and the sage advice that you've given us, and for someone that's also trying to do the same thing, has similar goals in mind. It means the world that you believe in us.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
thank
And you guys, I really love what you're doing. You put out what you have, and you do it for a really great reason, and you work really hard at it. I mean, there's nothing. How could you not support that?
Thank you.
How could
Cool.
I not support that? Just saying.
Thanks.
Our sponsors, TTSN, want to thank you for coming on the show, the Talent Shopping Network. If you guys are interested in acting, auditioning, or whatever, you're going to have 6 months on the Talent Network, so I'll give you your promo codes before you leave. Wordscape is our other sponsor. That's available now on the iPhone and the iPad. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.